Good afternoon, Hanne and Anne.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, welcome from sunny Vilnius. How's the weather in Norway?
It's a bit gray, but thank you for this opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so we're sending you a little bit of sun from Vilnius, and our audience is of course eager to hear the best practices you would like today to present, referring to lifelong learning, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, we got the opportunity to present best practices, and in the Nordic setting, I'm now used to that we are more talking about learning examples, so I will refer to it that way. And the Nordic setting is quite big, so 30 minutes with this is a bit of a task, but we will try to do our best, and I will start with a Nordic setting, and then Anna Julie will go into detail in a Norwegian example after. And I will say that I think that we are talking more about learning examples, because when you have best practices, there will always be a setting where you have to adapt it when you learn from it. So I think that's maybe why we are more talking about learning examples now, because it can be very well working in one setting, and then you see that, but our setting is a bit different one or another way, and you have to kind of find your way to use it in a good way where you are. And as Antra very well explained, there's a lot of cooperation in the Nordic settings, and it is very important for us to exchange experiences, as the countries are at different stages in different settings. All of us are countries that have good lifelong learning systems, but the systems are different. So it's good to exchange, and then we are looking for factors hindering and factors that can reinforce the opportunities for learning. So I will give you a few examples. This one. So I will use the same examples as Antra showed a little bit from. I will base mainly my presentation on this report from the network Competence in and for Working Life. And it is to give you some learning examples from the whole Nordic setting, of course. I'm mostly known, I know more about the Norwegian setting, but through our cooperations, we know a bit more. So this network was from 2018 to 2020 with the social partners. And this also shows how important the social partners are in the lifelong learning setting in the Nordic countries. And the report, Competence Development in Working Life. And the report contains recommendations, reflections, and learning examples. And I will, of course, show you more of the learning examples. And then you can also read the report to see more of the other information if you would like to. So since the social partners are so important, one of the main points I will bring to you is the tripartite cooperation, which is central to the Nordic model. And as you can see here, the Nordic model is basically economic governance, public welfare, and organized work interlinked in a good way. And as we are more or less similar and have similar situations in the countries, we have kind of a common starting point or an idea, a common basis. But at the same time, as I said, we have different systems and we take different measures and we are at different steps. So the learning examples here can show a bit of that. All of them have this tripartite cooperation somehow, but in Denmark, you have like a tripartite agreement on adult and continuing education. From Iceland, one of the learning examples is the Education and Training Service Center. From Norway, I can mention a national strategy for competence policy. And from Sweden, initiatives for pooling forces for better possibilities for lifelong learning. So these are different angles at the same way of doing it. There are different, and we have different needs also, because you always have to learn from the examples and find your way. So these are different measures you could take. And I think in the report, you will have more information about it. And then I will go to the next point. And Antra maybe elaborated more on this than I will do, about competence needs of individuals and companies. And then you have career guidance. And in the report, they say that it's important that individuals can make conscious and well-informed choices throughout their lives. And you have validation of competence. And here it's a need for basic principles and processes that's useful for both individual, the companies, and organizers of education. So here you have like different users of this kind of system, and you have to keep them all in mind. And you also heard Antra said that this has been worked on from other Norwegian networks, other Nordic networks, I mean. So the learning examples I will give you here is from Denmark. You have the e-guidance and online guidance for education and career management purposes. From Finland, you have a platform for tailor-made processes from the view of individuals in need of competence development. Iceland has support for deliberate competence strategies in individual companies. And then you have from Sweden, consolidated branch validation with the aid of the European Social Fund. So you see here also you have different angles to kind of the same points that need to be taken, or the same situations, but you have to adapt them to where you are and who you want to reach. You can have different, if it is like in companies or it's more individual level. And then my last point from that report, Antra also mentioned this about flexible, digital, and effective competence development. And this is also seen now after Corona situation as even more important. And you have, of course, the digitalization that goes on, and the need for the flexible solutions because you need to have possibilities during work life. Is not the situation that you do your education or your training and then you start working and then you finish. With your education or training, you have to keep it going in the lifelong run. So then it needs to be flexible as well. And I think everyone can see that this is more and more important to work on. So the learning examples I will give you from this point of view is from Denmark. Continuing education development by the partners. From Finland, reform of vocational education and training for lifelong and life-wide learning. And then from Norway, public financing for flexible digital continuing education and branch-specific education for specified branches. And Sweden, easier access to vocational training for adults. So you see also, there are lots of opportunities for that you can choose between, or you can find your way to do it from these different ways. And then basic skills. We have good basic skills in the Nordic countries, but I would point to the subtitle, how can we turn challenges into opportunities? Because there are challenges. And it's very important that we follow up and work on this also. So here we have done a SWOT analysis about the challenges and the opportunities to make it easier to see where should we put the efforts. And the learning examples I will point to is from Denmark, digital competences for teachers. From Finland, a cybersecurity strategy. From Iceland, guidance to reach vulnerable groups. From Norway, digidel.no, resource websites for sharing. And then Sweden, Digidel Network and Digidel Centers for everyday digital skills. So here you have also a wide variety of learning examples that you can also read more about and maybe also contact the different institutions in the different countries if you want to really have good information about all of them. And then I will give you Anne-Julie to give you the Norwegian example that will be presented in a more thorough way. So thanks a lot, and I will give you the next speaker.
My name is Anne-Julie Bolstad, and I'm the acting head of Department of Working Life and Skills, and I'm a colleague of Hanne. I will be talking about an example from Norway, more specifically the trade and industry programs. As a background, I will tell you a little bit about the Norwegian skills reform. Both Hanne and Andreas talked about it, but it's very important and it's essential as a background to the trade and industry programs. Then I will tell you a little bit about how we organize these programs, the target groups, how we identify the skills needed. I will tell you a little bit about, I'll give you two examples, the oil and gas industry and the food and beverage industry. And then at the end, I will tell you a little bit about the benefits and the challenges of these programs. Yeah. Well, we've been talking about the skills reform earlier today, but just to wrap up, the skills reform main goal is to give people the skills that they need to continue to be a part of the labor force. It is also to close the gap between what skills the companies need and what the labor force can offer. It's essential to do this to develop courses for lifelong learning. And the last years, we've seen an increasing number of digital courses due to COVID-19. There's also, of course, a goal that people should not be outdated in the labor market. We have different measures to do this. And in this presentation, I will talk about the, for us, largest one, both in money used, courses, trades developed, and people working on it. That is the trade and industry program. So there. The trade and industry programs is a great example of how the tripartite cooperation model can work, as Hanne and Andreas talked about. The Norwegian or Nordic model, that is also together with employers and employers' organizations and trade unions, our directorate have established courses highly demanded by both employers and employees. We have different roles in the programs. Our directorate we're the administrators, and we serve as secretariat for the different programs. The Ministry of Education and Research grants for money for the program and defines framework of how it's administered. And they also decide which industries to be included. There's a nomination process going on right now, actually. It's quite exciting to see what new programs will be started next year. The role of the employers' organizations and trade unions will be described later, but they are the key to make sure that the courses we support are needed and wanted in the sector by all parts. These programs, they usually last for 3 years. And as I said, there's a nomination process going on right now for 2022. The employees' organizations and trade unions are invited to nominate new sectors. And they have to argument for why these sectors should be a part of a new program. New program. I'm sorry. Is the sound okay? Yeah, perfect. Yes, I'm sorry. They have to answer to what do the new sectors need? Are there courses or training available? Or if not, why do we have to start and put money into new training and courses now? Yes, then I will go into the next one, which is this. Currently, we have 10 sectors or 10 trade programs. These are, I don't have to mention them all, I guess. It's the travel and hospitality, the food and beverage processing, retail trade, and so on. As they last for 3 years, and 2 of these is coming to an end now, and that's why we have a new nomination process. The rest 8 were started during 2020, so we're fairly new, 8 of these. When COVID-19 hit last year, this way of letting the employers' organizations and trade unions to meet and discuss the need for competencies was seen upon as a very efficient way of helping to solve the crisis in several industries. As you can see, there are different target groups. There are, for the last year, target groups, of course, have been people laid off and unemployed, but it's also employees in the industries with a particular need for restructuring. And how do we identify the sector's need for skills? It is very important that the employers' organizations and the trade unions nominate good representatives for each industry, representatives that knows the industry well, because they will be a part of defining what skills is needed for the industry, and they will decide what training to support. Of course, everything within the framework that we provide. There are all levels of education. It's non-formal training. There are short courses with just a few hours. It's vocational education at upper secondary level with the aim to obtain a formal VET, certificate 4, level 4. It's the higher VET, and it's university colleges and universities. And of course, the different sectors and the different programs have different needs. Some programs like the oil and gas industry and the maritime sector will have the need for university and college training, mostly, while the travel and hospitality program has most courses on vocational upper secondary level. All courses are free for the students. That's very important. And schools in all levels all can apply if they can establish courses or training that's needed or wanted by the different programs. This can be new courses they already have, and they just adjust it, make them smaller, easier to to do while working, or it could be developing of brand new courses. Further on, ownership by the representatives representatives of the industry is very important to make this work. As I said, the representatives are responsible for defining the skills needed, and they have ownership of the outcome, the courses that will be provided for the target groups. They also define what the target group should be. They're also responsible for marketing the courses, and at the end, they're responsible for the money. They, at the end, decide what courses to be founded and what not to be founded, how to use the money. Our directorate are responsible to make sure that the money is used within the framework, of course. I will now give you two examples. One is from the oil and gas industry, and the other one is from the food and beverage production. Two quite different programs. The oil and gas industry is a big industry in Norway. It has a big impact on our economy. And it's a sector where there are rapid changes. It's vulnerable to new technologies and to international conjunctures. There's also a strong demand for a more sustainable industry. In the program, we have a board with 10 representatives. It's one of the biggest boards, and they have strong voices. There have been some interesting discussions on what skills are needed. Right now, there's not much unemployment in the industry, but it's not a long time ago since it was. During the last oil crisis in 2015, 2016, many people in the industry was laid off. So the need for change is still going on and is still huge. For us working in the Directorate, it's very interesting to be so close to the actual discussion about competencies. There are sometimes discussions on what we need more, Internet of Things or machine learning, and what are the differences in this sector. To be that close to the competencies actually needed is quite interesting on this level. The food and beverage industry has had more unemployment the last year. This is a smaller group of organizations in the program board. They are very well coordinated and they usually agree easily. The one to the left, as you can see, carbon capture, utilization and storage is the example from the oil and gas industry. This is shortened CCUS, this course. This is a three credit course at the University of Bergen in the western part of Oslo, Norway. It's 100% digital and it's spread over 10 weeks. The new university got this course up and running in just a few weeks. They had the subject as a part of a master's degree. It's been highly demanded that it should be possible to take the course while working. And so when the oil and gas program started last year, the board contacted the University of Bergen, and they got this up and running in just a few weeks. There's been waiting lists since then, and the course has been running several times the last year. The other course to the right here is the course, theory course to qualify as a skilled worker in an industrial food production. Here, many of the participants have been unemployed, and the course has also been running several times during this last year and a half. both these courses can be taken. They're flexible, they're 100% digital, and you can take them while you're unemployed or when working. So these were the two examples. As a wrap-up, I will say a little bit about the challenges and benefits of these programs. There are some challenges, of course. In Norway, 99% of the companies are defined as small or medium-sized. All these are companies that are quite difficult to access. And they are also sometimes the ones with the biggest needs. During times of strong demand, it's difficult to take the labor force out of production. This is especially a problem in small and medium-sized companies. And during times of low demand, it is difficult to set aside money for competence development. It can also be challenging to motivate adults to set aside, to use their spare time for developing their skills. And it can be difficult to motivate potential learners for long, extensive training programs combined with employment. Sometimes it's also difficult for the representatives of the industry to identify what skills are needed. But of course, there are benefits as well. One of them is to keep people employed to prevent long-time unemployment or early retirement. This is very important. It is also to prepare for modern technology. Another benefit is that we prepare for rapid changes in the labor market and demand for new skills. And with this close cooperation with the industry, we're quite sure and confident that we train the working force in the skills that are actually needed. And as a result of these programs, we are making the schools in different levels. We encourage them to start to provide even more flexible courses and training. These programs are still fairly new. There's a big evaluation going on, and we'll get the results in a few weeks actually. So that's quite that's exciting to see what the researchers will mean about this. But we're quite confident that these programs will be going on in Norway for several years. And so I say thank you.
So thank you, Anna and Hanne, for really interesting presentation, especially hearing about the benefits you find out from your different initiatives and the challenges. And I have a question actually to both of you, as at the same time you're working at the department where one part is related to higher education, not only to skills in general. From your experience, looking at different Nordic countries, could you share your evaluation how flexible in lifelong learning is higher education sector? We get used really to talk a lot about vocational education sector, that this education sector is more flexible. But what about higher education sector? What is your evaluation? And it would be great to hear from both of you in the grading system from 1 to 10. What mark would you evaluate flexibility of higher education sector? Thank you.
Thank you. 1 to 10. That's a tricky one, but I would say 6 or 7. We're getting there. A lot has happened last year. It really has. The way that we've been financing these flexible courses during the last year and a half has kind of forced the university and colleges to be more digital and flexible, of course. So it will be very interesting when we get the. I don't know if you have anything more to say, Hanne.
Yes, I would say that we are working on it, basically. I would say that the higher education system needs to be more flexible, and that's part of the processes going on now. There are still changes that needs to be done. Yeah, that's basically what I can say. I think that we are working on it. And part of the process is that we are now a new directorate where we have skills and higher education in the same directorate. And in Norway, this is a very new thing. We were a new directorate from the 1st of July, and this is part of the process, actually. So there, I think the process is very much something that they put a lot of effort into.
Okay. So thank you once more, both of you, and actually for a very honest answer. I think honesty is one of the skills we definitely, by the way, need in 21st century.